All right, your next question. Um, an anonymous question. They'd like you to know if you were given an extra amount of money, such as an extra stimulus check, what would you use it on? Or what would you suggest using it on?
Uh, Money. Well, the first thing I would do is I would pay my tithes because I mean there's a blessing. God says, "Test me in this. See if I won't open the windows of heaven and pour out blessings on you if you pay your basic tithe." That's out in Malachi chapter 4, I believe it is. Um, but also, Jesus taught that our basket of giving is the same size basket we use in getting. So I would be generous above that. So I really, my first two things I would think of would be tithing and then being generous in an anonymous way to somebody who needed it worse than I did. I would say that's 80% of the check. That's what I would do with it. If you want to, what would you do with yourself? Um, it depends on where you're at. It depends on what resources you've got. But there's an interesting thing about wealth. Jesus said this. He said, or not Jesus said, but Paul says that godliness with contentment is great gain, or one translation is great wealth. And then right before that, the verse says, if you have food and covering, we will be content. The Greek words there are very interesting. Food implies food and water, and covering means shelter and clothing. So let's paraphrase that. If you have food and water, clothing and shelter, then you should be content. And contentment plus godliness is great wealth. So I think I would take the 80% left over after I did some tithing and giving, and make sure I had those bases covered. If I can't get some food in the future, if I can't get some clothing or covering, I would probably try to spend it on something in that line because those are the necessities. That's what we may need in the future for a following contraction that may be worse than this one. It may be money well spent. So I think I would probably think ahead in those lines of clothing, shelter, food, or water.